I wanted to become a warrior because I thought it would make my mom's wish to live with me and my father come true. But my father never wanted any part of us. Mom lived for a dream that she knew was hopeless. I should have never been chosen. I should have died today. Why apologize? And why save someone like me? This can't end with me doing nothing, knowing nothing. Before I die, I need to change something.
The Armored Titan, known for his hard outer shell and meant to be impervious to any damage. Truly a Titan worthy of being the one to take the front line and lead. So why is it so easily fractured? Why is the wielder so easily broken? For something meant to be invincible, and for the wielder of such a power to have such strong resolve, why is it that this Titan shifter, while strong in his beliefs and resolute in their efforts, fall apart so easily? Today I'm going to tell you why this Titan, meant to be the pinnacle of defense, this Titan shifter, supposedly one with strong perseverance, breaks ever so easily, and despite their strong outer shell plated armor, becomes a shell of their former self. Before we start the topic of the video, make sure you guys subscribe and hit that like button if you haven't already. It helps the video and the channel get more traction in the YouTube algorithm. It lets it be seen by other people who enjoy content just like this. And now, with no further distractions, let's get back to the topic of the video. So the Armored Titan and Reiner Braun, one and the same. A character who has so much determination to get his mission done, yet falters. A person known for their fierce perseverance, but later breaks down, and not only once, but over and over again. As the inheritor of the Armored Titan, Reiner's supposed to be the one who leads in the front lines, not only with his Titan hardened armor, but also a mental fortitude that can ironically enough, get through anything. And for a while, he was such a person, but the seeds of his fragility were already planted even during his indoctrination into the beliefs of Marley, that all aliens on the island were devils that needed to be wiped out. From a very young age, Reiner was shown to be determined due to the circumstances of not only his training, but his upbringing as well. His very own mother, who always fed him the same rhetoric as Marley, that they were abandoned by the king, that the aliens of Perry D were devils, and telling him if only they were born Marleyan, as they too have the blood of the devils within them. Reiner's mother even goes as far as wanting her son to become a warrior, despite knowing he will only have 13 years left to live after receiving the Armored Titan. She wished for nothing more than to be Marleyan, and this wish of hers was also passed down to Reiner, as he believed if he were to become a warrior and claim the title of honorary Marleyan, that he and his mother would be accepted, that it would be the greatest honor, and even thought to himself that it would bring his family together, as he was also the son of a Marleyan man. This truth and worldview he created in his head would slowly be shattered over the years of his life. One by one, Reiner would come to discover the real truth of the world, that is not as black and white as he once thought. During his early childhood years, training with his fellow warrior candidates, we can see how determined Reiner was. Day in and day out, he always tried his best, whether the test of his efforts would be physical or mental. We would later come to find that despite all of the hard work he put in, it truly meant nothing as he was the least skilled among the warrior candidates. With a flustered look on Reiner's face, we can see the seeds of doubt that lie within him, and a truth that he doesn't want to accept. A child with a fragile ego who is only doing what he believes to be correct thanks to the indoctrinated beliefs of the place he was born into, his beliefs as fragile as the armor he would later inherit. The day Reiner inherited the Armored Titan, he was happy, because he believed the words Porco spoke to him that day about him being the least skilled of the warriors and not worthy of inheriting the Armored Titan were proven false. But this will only last for what seems like a moment. The truth would later come to light as Annie, Bertholdt, Marcel, and Reiner sit at a campfire after arriving on Paradis Island. As they sit there with grim looks on their faces, Reiner believes this to mean that they have doubts about what they've come to do. With the same determination to prove he is correct, he stands and tries to reinvigorate their drive he believed they all shared, to eradicate the island devils, but little does he know, he's truly the only one who feels this way. Marcel looks down and proceeds to apologize to Reiner, just as he's always done, but this leaves Reiner confused. Every time Marcel apologized, there was always a reason behind it. So Reiner stands there confused as nothing happened, but he will soon come to find out that yet another worldview of his will come to be shattered once again. Marcel explains to Reiner that he was never supposed to be chosen as a warrior, that he talked him up to the brass to make him look like the correct choice and purposely made his own brother look bad so he wouldn't be chosen as a Titan shifter. This whole time, Reiner truly believed he was the correct choice because of the merit of his skill, and it turns out this entire time, he was just used as a means to protect someone else from the life he desperately sought out and was proud of attaining. The training, perseverance, bravery of fighting for his country, making his mother proud, and hopefully bringing his father back into his life was thought to have led him here. But it turns out, it was actually the deceitful words of one of his very own comrades, all in the effort to protect someone else, when Reiner himself thought he was protecting everyone in the world. Standing there shocked from this revelation, the only thing he is able to say is, "Why are you apologizing?" And as the pure titan of Ymir emerges from underground, ready to devour Reiner, he is protected by none other than Marcel himself. As he gets devoured, sacrificing himself to protect Reiner. This moment is going to be very important to my point later, so keep this in mind, as it's a turning point that changes everything. Now, as to not give you all the entire rehash of the story from this point on, it's pretty much going to be touch and go from here on out. If I don't do it this way, then the entire video will be extremely long, and I'm not here to summarize the story, I'm sure you all know quite well yourself, but to explain why the Armored Titan represents fragility. So I hope you like this new format I'm going to be trying out, and let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. From this point on, Reiner begins to drastically change. After Annie berates him for running, blaming him for Marcel's death, and beating him, he retaliates. He nearly chokes her to death, and says if they need Marcel, then he'll be Marcel, making himself the de facto leader of the group, as it was Marcel's responsibility to lead the mission. He adopted this personality to be seen by his future comrades in the survey corps and his fellow warriors as a reliable person they could depend on, and gain trust among the people in the survey corps. But this decision will later come to haunt him. During the destruction of Wall Maria, Reiner has an inner monologue and he becomes aware of his worldview being wrong. We see it start to shatter. He says to himself, he wanted to become a warrior because he believed it would make his mom's dream come true, but his father didn't want any part of them. He came to realize that his mother lived for an impossible dream. He realizes that he should have never been chosen as a warrior, and that he should have died instead of Marcel. He's confused as to why Marcel not only apologized, but saved him as well. He finishes here by saying that this can end with him not only doing nothing, but knowing nothing. And before he dies, he needs to change something. As I said before, his beliefs are fragile. Why? Because they aren't his own. He questioned everything that he believed to be true, and not knowing anything else, he still decides to break the wall, because it's still all he knows. As we would come to find out later, he did it because he wanted to be a hero. He wanted to be respected. He believed it was the right thing to do. Reiner is nothing more than a product of his environment. There's a line in the series that sticks with me from a minor character that's probably had a huge impact on all of you as well, and I believe it gets glossed over because so much happens in Attack on Titan. I'm sure all of you remember Kaya, the younger sister of Sasha. Well, she had a particularly interesting conversation with Gabi and Falco. Falco apologizes for the things Marley has done, and Kaya tells him he was only born there. I always took this line to mean, if they were born anywhere else, their belief system will be entirely different. I also take this as a parallel and reinforcement to the scene of Eren telling Reiner that he was so young when he was taught to hate Eldians of Paradis, and he couldn't have fought that. You see, Reiner and Gabi are similar in a sense, where they don't truly have their own beliefs. It literally sounds like everything they're saying about Eldians comes out of a book, and not from their own thought process. And what better evidence of this do we have other than the legendary betrayal from Reiner and Bertholdt upon the wall? Reiner explicitly says that they didn't know anything, that they were just kids, and he doesn't know what's right anymore. He questions why there had to be people like this, just regular people. There was always a reason Eldians of Paradis were referred to as island devils. It was an attempt to dehumanize them, to make them look less than human. To make them look less than human will make it easier to kill them. This is actually a tactic in real world warfare, to make atrocities committed seem justified. Because you're not doing these horrible things to other human beings, then is it really wrong? Most people will say of course it is, but honestly, you will be surprised by the results. And unfortunately for Reiner, he was no exception. Unfortunately for Reiner, he couldn't help but make a genuine connection with the people he thought of as less than, and in the end, broke him, as the first sign of it was when he was the cause of Marco Bot's death, and to cope with what he had done, developed an entire split personality disorder. The fragility of his beliefs, his ego, and later even his ability to combat were finally catching up to him, and honestly, it was quite a sad sight to see. After the grand battle of Shiganshina, Reiner returns home to Marley with Zeke and Peak. He went to Paradis Island with Annie, Bertholdt, and Marcel, and he returned home alone. After telling Annie, after they complete their mission, they can return home, which he made a point to say together. Losing Bertholdt in the battle of Shiganshina, and Marcel sacrificing his own life to save Reiner, he returns home alone. He has no one who he can relate to with the experiences he's had, and when questioned by his uncle about the dark times he's had on Paradis, the only thing he could say is something the late Sasha has done that was completely innocent in nature. Reiner's worldview is completely shattered, his mind broken, and the memories that haunt him drives him to the point of almost taking his own life. He's only stopped by the timely arrival of Falco, but Reiner saw not only Falco, but Gabi, Udo, and Zofia as well, were reminders of his past and how he spent his time with his term of warriors. They were what gave him hope, his last hope to stand for their future. But not even this will be enough, as when Eren confronts Reiner in the basement, Reiner is faced with the atrocities he's committed once more, and not with an ally, but with a former comrade whose home he plunged to hell. Not being able to take what he's faced with, Reiner begs for death, and after Eren denies him this, Eren begins to attack Marley. Reiner, in the beginning, can't even bring himself to fight. Even as his comrades are being defeated one by one, Reiner only wishes for death. When he finally gains the will to fight, thanks to the pleas of Falco and Gabby, he couldn't even materialize his Titan correctly. With missing plates of armor, he stood no chance of defeating Eren, even after Eren's many battles against other Titan shifters in the Marleyan military. As I said before, his beliefs were as fragile as his armor. Sometime later, after learning of the betrayal of Zeke, Reiner pleads with the Marleyan military to take the fight to Paradis, which Eren and Zeke fled to, and once he arrives, he engages in yet another battle with Eren once again. As Reiner pierces Eren with a spike made from Eren's Warhammer Titan ability, he has another inner monologue, stating that he and Eren have suffered enough. Ever since he had the chance to talk to Eren again in the basement, he believed what Eren said to be true, that they were both the same. But here, he denies that notion, stating to himself, why did he ever think they were the same, and that he just wants this to end. And for once, it seems as if he has the upper hand on Eren. Before, Reiner would lose every battle to Eren, at least in his Titan form. But now Reiner is changing. As he comes to accept the truth of the world and that things are more nuanced than he initially believed, his armor holds, and he is able to fight someone even as powerful as Eren, who has the abilities of 3 Titans. As he starts to shape his own beliefs of the world, not only his mental fortitude, but his will to fight and his armor that encases his Titan don't seem so fragile anymore. He starts to become unbreakable in his resolve, but there are yet still seeds of doubt that lie within. As when he and the rest of the Alliance arrive at the dock where the Jaegerists were stationed, Eren begins to speak to Armin, Connie, John, and Mikasa, and says that they were the ones who were put in the position that Bertholdt, Reiner, and herself were. Maybe they would have chosen a different decision to not destroy the wall. This makes Reiner reflect on what Eren had said in Marley, when he told Reiner that he and him were the same, and Reiner asked himself, is this what he meant? This shows us that Reiner believes Eren would have done the same thing, if put in a position to destroy the wall on Paradis. So although I believe Reiner to be coming into his own, after a lifelong battle of his own doubts placed on him by the world around him, he is still subject to the possibility of slipping back down a road of his beliefs that are on his own. Of course, healing a broken mind wouldn't be as easy as just accepting the truth of the things around you. It will be a years-long process, especially when you look at Reiner's life from an objective perspective, as Reiner was only a child when fed the lies of the world, and even taking countless human lives. His fragility is understandable, and of course, as a young child, you would mask such a trait with false determination and accepting the false narrative that you are doing this for the greater good of not only your home country, but the world as a whole. It makes sense until the day comes when your mind can't cope with the things you've done, so in an effort to protect itself, breaks off a separate personality, entirely dedicated to a new life, one void of all the trauma inflicted upon it. In the real world, we call this dissociative identity disorder. And the catalyst to this moment for Reiner was a gradual buildup of everything that had taken place in his life. It would eventually tip the edge, was the death of Marco. This brings me to my next and final point, where I believe, while yes, he has still shown what the seeds of doubt planted within, he accepts everything he has done and wishes to pay for the crimes he committed, not only against his dear comrades from Marley, not only against his former comrades from Paradis, or the many lives that were taken as a result of the wall being destroyed, but against himself as well. While in the forest with the Alliance, Yelena makes a point to ask John, does he know how Marco really died? Annie tries to take the blame by saying she took Marco's ODM gear, but Reiner quickly intervenes and said she was only acting on his orders. John asks if Marco had any last words, and Reiner tells him he said, why wasn't he willing to talk to him? As the silence continues, it's truly louder than anything that was being said beforehand, until Reiner, who you can see is red out with guilt and pain, breaks it by going on about the situation. He goes on to say he stood and watched the Titan as it devoured Marco, and after completely snapped and killed the Titan himself. John, who was having a hard time processing everything and sitting across from the person who literally was responsible for his best friend's life being taken away from him so early, looks to the side and says what Reiner already knows, that the guilt of his mission messed with his head. Reiner ignores his subtle plea from John to stop talking, and Reiner says don't forgive him and that he's worthless. John, a bit more aggressive this time, says they get it, heavily implying that he wants to stop hearing about the situation, and yet again Reiner ignores him and says he's sorry. This makes John snap, and he beats Reiner, paying him back for all the pain that not only he inflicted on Marco, but I'm sure pent up rage from the countless struggles they had to face because of the decisions he's made. I believe this scene to be symbolic of Reiner's acceptance of everything he's done, and how he wants to proceed moving forward, because as John beats him relentlessly, Reiner doesn't fight back, he just accepts all the pain. I feel deep down, he knows the pain he's receiving right now is nothing compared to what John is feeling in this moment. Reiner, like Bertholdt, always ran away from the issues he was faced with. And if you want to know more about that, check out my Colossal Titan video, as is also another informative breakdown video. But unlike Bertholdt, Reiner didn't develop a false sense of courage to mask what he truly felt. Reiner in this moment was transparent about everything he felt, the anguish, guilt, and regret of everything he had caused to everyone around him. And instead of running away any longer, he accepts everything, accepts everything that he's faced to endure and bear witness to. This is why he accepts this beating from John, because Reiner truly wanted to change as an individual. Reiner, on the day he crashed through the gate, desperately wanted to change something before his death. He acknowledged everything that was wrong with the world, and yet still couldn't understand. But I truly believe after returning from his time spent on Paradis and being able to see the world for what it truly was, fulfilled his wish. But it took so much pain to get to this point for him. The fragile beliefs he had desperately clung to were completely shattered with only painful memories of the past that remained deep within. Reiner never got the chance to be a child. He was gradually manipulated into being a soldier by his mother in her attempt to make her dream, which he knew was hopeless, come true. And once sent to Paradis, was out of his element. Understandably so, as he was only just a child tasked with eliminating humanity within the walls, all in an attempt to capture a power that his home country would use for their own benefit. Reiner, since his birth, was truly a tortured soul, and I always find it difficult to be angry at him for the atrocities committed when I take everything into account, but they were atrocities nonetheless, and he should be held responsible for the actions that took place. But the line always rings in my head of him saying they were just kids that didn't know anything. The scariest part about all of this is the fact that people today are born into the same circumstances as Reiner. And while it may not be as extreme in a sense where humanity has the potential to be exterminated because of it, it's still damaging to a scary degree all the same. Reiner always masked his failures to understand the world around him as false determination to make himself seem competent and complete the mission assigned to him, and in the end, it left him a broken man. Fed lies his entire life, and finally breaking free of that hold on him truly makes him not only one of the most complex characters in the show, but my favorite character overall, because in the show, where realism and endless parallels shows between this and the actual world we reside in, this has to in fact be the realist it feels in terms of someone being human. We, from a young age, always think we are invincible to everything, whether it be to someone's influence in potential battle, your environment, or the world as a whole, but as we get older, our fragile worldview shatters. But it does get built back up again with the truth of the world, that we aren't these invincible heroes that we truly thought we once were as young children. We come to understand the people we truly are, and hopefully from the countless experiences that end up shaping us into the young adults we eventually become, find our place in this crazy massive world of ours. Fragility isn't something to be ashamed of or run away from, because at one point, we all had it. To experience the childlike innocence is one of the reasons that make life so great, because even when the illusion is broken, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It gives you the opportunity to find what the truth is for you, and what it means for you. It truly is just another adventure of life, and hopefully you find something meaningful when looking for it. Even if the journey ahead may be filled with pain, we truly are capable of overcoming anything in this world. Reiner's story is indeed a tragic one, but I believe you can take a lot away from it, just as I have, and I believe Reiner's story is far from over, and I truly can't wait to see what Part 3 of Season 4 has in store for us moving forward. But, until then, this is Reiner Braun, and the fragility of his armored titan. But remember, through sheer determination and the ability to move forward, just as he said, you can overcome all that stands in your way, and find the strength to stand up again, even if you faltered. And as always, thanks for watching. I want to thank you all for the support that you've been giving my channel. I truly appreciate it, and I can't thank you all enough. You have no idea how grateful I am and how motivated it makes me that so many people enjoy and look forward to my videos, and hopefully you've enjoyed this new format of video that I've done. If you want to support me further, just leave a like, comment, and if you're truly enjoying my content, then subscribe. It truly means the world to me, and I hope this video has impacted you in a good way. And until next time, my friends, and seriously this time, thanks for watching.